40 years, the Women's Building has stood as a sanctuary and a force for justice, providing vital resources to women, immigrant families, and marginalized communities in San Francisco. In a city grappling with housing insecurity, public safety, and widening inequality, this building and the people behind it continue to offer something rare: grounded leadership, collective care, and real hope. In this episode of San Francisco Revival, a Mission Housing podcast, we're sitting down with Tania Estrada, the Executive Director of the Women's Building. In this conversation, we talk about the journey from volunteer to grassroots organizer to executive leadership. We also discuss the most urgent challenges women and families are facing today and what it takes to keep showing up for your community. Welcome to San Francisco Revival, a Mission Housing podcast.
Welcome, everybody, to this latest episode of the San Francisco Revival. Before we get into our conversation with Tania Estrada from the Women's Building, I want to give a little reminder for everyone to please like and subscribe, and make sure to share this episode and any of our other episodes of San Francisco Revival with your networks. So let's go ahead and get into it. Tania, thank you for being here on San Francisco Revival.
Thank you so much for having me.
So now you are the executive director of the Women's Building. But we met each other 10 years ago when we were both younger coordinators. And, you've kind of worked your way up at the Women's Building to now being the executive director. I was wondering if you can start us off by sharing with us your journey from being a coordinator, or even from before that, from being a volunteer to now being executive director. Like, what drew you to this work? What drew you to the organization? And what keeps you motivated what's kept you motivated through the past 10 years and still does today?
Yeah, thank you, Sharad. So I think my journey, I feel that I always been driven by the values of empowerment, women's empowerment, community, and equity. And I think those values are the ones that are keeping me where I am today as the executive director of the Women's Building. When I first started, I actually started as a volunteer. I couldn't work at a time. And I felt I had something to give back to my community. And I started the journey on searching for that, right? So I remember the first words I typed when looking for a volunteer opportunity were women, because I believe on that empowerment. I wanted to speak my language, so I made sure I put Spanish in there, because for me it was very important. And then I said something regarding workforce, because I believe on that empowerment for women and for more seats at the table. Mm-hmm. So I typed those letters, and then the search drove me to the Women's Building, and I've never been there before. 12 years ago, I didn't know what the Women's Building was. And when I went there for an interview, I was just I stood there for a moment in awe of all of the murals, looking around, and then just ended. I was like, is this the place? I thought I was mistaken, but it drew me to that place. And it was very powerful to just be in there. And then when I started volunteering there, and I did that for about a year, and because I couldn't work, I would study English in City College in the morning, and then just go to the Women's Building later on and be there for a year. So I really got to find a lot of community there. I found great team that support the community struggles and the community itself, that were very, intentional about their search for that pathway that each one of them were driving. So I really felt really empowered by women, just finding their way into their many struggles that the world gives us every day, right? So I became the volunteer coordinator, and then I worked part-time for a little bit, for a year, and then the programs coordinator, programs director, and then 2 years ago, I was appointed to be the executive director of the organization. Yeah. So it's been a journey. At the beginning, I think my work was more into social services, but through this journey, I've been learning to see things more strategically, I would say, right? Fundraising, communication, administration, finance, and all of these things that I didn't know I was going to be involved. But then now, I'm very honored to be part of those efforts and to be in that seat with all of other women, just like trying to lead the building and all of our initiatives with such an integrity and social justice.
Excellent. Thank you so much for sharing that with us. I think, anyone who has a first glimpse of that building is probably in a bit awe initially, right? With the massive mural on the outside. That depicts like women from all over the world in various different cultures, religions, and languages. And people come from all over just to take pictures in front of that building. So I'm sure even going there 12 years ago and then even now, there's still a sense of awe from the physical structure itself.
Definitely.
Yeah. So what role does a women's building play in empowering women and marginalized communities in San Francisco?
I think we play a crucial role, especially being in the heart of San Francisco and addressing so many communities, but especially in the Mission District. I think we play a vital role of like serving with resources, with social services, with advocacy, and with community empowerment, and on building that safe space that women look up for, right? Like we want to create those safe spaces for everyone, but specifically for women because of the so many struggles throughout time and throughout their journeys, right? So I think we do play that role. We try to include all of our communities at large, and then just to be mindful and be culturally aware of what our capacities are. We have seen women coming from around 60 countries around the world.
Wow.
And where the majority are Latinx communities and marginalized communities. We are committing to serving them as many as we can, right, in this journey. We also, if I can share right now, we have been seeing also the building is as you mentioned, it's that structure that brings you off. But then once you enter and then you discover all of the things that are happening inside, it's just really amazing to see. I've been told this by many people, I didn't know. And to tell you the truth, I didn't know either when I first came into San Francisco and to the women's building. And, one of the things that we've been working on is not only doing community events, and right now we're forming our fundraising events. So it's happening on May 16th. Its name is Unstoppable, the Power of Collectives Strength, and it's on May 16, 6 to 9 p.m. and it's going to be just an amazing event of celebrating women, the women's building, our communities, and the work that happened there.
Unstoppable May 16th.
Yes.
And if I wanted to get a ticket?
Yeah, just go to the website, buy a ticket, and then we're trying to also release our self-guiding tour on that day. So that will be amazing, and the first thing for everyone. So.
Oh, that's great. Yeah. And the website is it's womensbuilding.org.
Correct, womensbuilding.org.
Okay, perfect.
Yeah.
Perfect. Thank you.
Yeah.
I hope to be there. And definitely hope a lot of our listeners can show up as well. You mentioned a lot about being in community. How important is it for the women's building itself organizationally to be kind of woven into the Mission District and the history of the Mission District?
Yeah, I think that, I've been thinking about where we are is just an amazing space to be. But let's start with the community that we serve. The Mission District has been long serve Latinx. We lived there until gentrification, took over a lot of the spaces that our community had. But working class, right? So we're in the right location and we continue to serve the right population. And this is the population that we continue to want to serve. And it's not only, we are a culturally sensitive organization that understands the struggles of the communities. We are in a location where our communities, our families live, where we've been gentrified, where we're trying to come back, where we're trying to organize and to build on that advocacy. We are a place where, in collaboration and in communities, we get stronger, and we cannot get stronger solos. We have to be stronger together. So.
100%. We first started working together on anti-gentrification work in the Plaza 16 coalition, not just pushing back against against a market rate monster, but also advocating for 100% affordable housing development, the Marvel or Maravilla, which is on its way to being built. Hopefully we can start demolition at the end of this year. And Mission Housing is proud to also partner with MEDA on this and still work with the Women's Building and the Plaza 16 coalition on it. So with the gentrification piece, right, like how has the housing crisis and gentrification itself, particularly in the Mission and also other communities in the city, how has that impacted the people that you serve and come through your doors?
I mean, it's an added barrier to the struggles that our communities already have. And having a home is a basic need. You have to be sheltered and to have shelter. And if that shelter is not safe, then, what's the point? We have so many women struggling because there's so many families just struggling to have to pay rent on a monthly basis. So that pushes people to leave. It is not a choice for them. For many San Franciscans, moving is a choice. But for lots of our communities, moving is not a choice.
It's displacement.
It's displacement.
Yeah.
And because of that, there's so many other components, right? Like people are trying to work 2 jobs or 3 to make ends meet, to pay the rent. And that, it takes away from family time, takes away from investing in your own development, from investing in women, for investing in community even, right? For just being out there and just hang out and then just meet each other. And I think also, these impacts generations. It's not about one thing, one displacement. It is what it takes to impact multiple generations from then on. So I think for women, it's especially harder because then it's not only the burden of meeting and needs, but also taking care of a family and not getting into a higher job because of time, because you have to work 2 instead of 1. There's a lot of pressure on women itself. And I think gentrification is making the life of women and families harder, right?
Yeah, 100%. I mean, quite often because of how society has been structured and how certain kind of gender norms have evolved or devolved, depending on how we see it. The role of women in ensuring that the next generation actually feels either empowered or has a sense of home or anything is difficult, right?
I think our communities, it's from, housing stability to economic also instability that we're living. Those two are tied together. We cannot talk about one without tackling the other. So it's just and there's a lot of intersections also within that, right? So.
Most definitely. What are some of the more underreported struggles for women and families in San Francisco? What is the stuff that maybe we're not hearing about as much that we should be hearing about?
I mean, I think right now on 2 things. And one is our political climate, immigration. There's lots of fear. And if someone doesn't know, I'm telling you, there is. It exists. It exists with our community, within our communities, at the Women's Building, outside the Women's Building, with my friends. There's a lot of fear within these times. And it's about immigration. And it's about having barriers, additional barriers that are impeding us to move and to elevate ourselves into what we could be. And I think that's one. And the other one, I think specifically for women, but not necessarily, are harassment, sexual assaults, and violence against women. This is true. And this is one of the most underreported because not a lot of people want to share about this. Why would they, right? But it's important for those reports to happen. Housing crisis makes that a little bit harder. There's a lot of, sexual assaults and harassments when you live in crowded places.
Yeah.
You don't want to leave that place. And we have had those climates. And, it's like, it's a struggle. It's a struggle for them to think even on another possibility. And right now also, like, the fact that we're normalizing some of that language and practices for women, it's not helping. Like, that is not helping anyone, but specifically women, right? So I think like sexual harassment, violence against women is one of the most underrated struggles that we hear around the world.
Yeah. And especially in families where, DV is quite apparent. And if someone leaves, or let's say if in this case, like let's say the mother or the woman leaves, you also lose your housing.
Exactly.
Right? Because sometimes there's housing dependency that is
definitely
layered onto it.
Dependency is the number one for why women stay with their aggressor, right? And that is the moment in which when they leave, when they choose to do that, right, it is the most difficult time. They could be killed. Is where women get most killed when that decision happens. So it's preventing, educating, providing the resources that are not only there, but that are culturally sensitive to their needs, to their language. I think that's something that we need to commit to if we want to just like continue, like trying to make a difference for them.
100%. Within that context, how do you see the women's building? I think you kind of talked about with some of the programming and what you do, but maybe on a deeper level, how do you see the women's building as kind of like a beacon of hope within this context that exists right now with the fear, not just of immigration, but also of violence?
Yeah, I think like the women's building is a symbol of resilience, a symbol of hope. And I think that is knowing and understanding that these spaces are sacred for a reason, for women to look up for them, for us to commit to continue supporting women. We all have a women we love. We all love our mothers. We all may have daughters, right? So, and I think this is what it's important, right? Like the women's building is more than a space. It's like a hub for social services. It's a safe place for community building. It's where campaigns and advocacy happens, where we had our meetings.
We've had multiple campaign meetings, right? Yeah. The meeting that we did before we had the action at Laborers 261, the mic check action, we had that meeting was in the women's building, in the Audre Lorde room, actually.
Yeah, exactly.
We do a lot of organizing strategy out of that building.
Exactly. And I think that's the power of the building. It is not about like, one service or one person or one organization. It's about all of us like coming together and getting collaboration in one place, getting services in one place, getting women connected to multiple services in one place where their search can end, or we could be the first organization that they search, or we could be the last one, but we are ensuring all of our clients, their search is going to end with us because the connections or collaborations that we have with multiple organizations, specifically in the mission, right? But more than that, it's like, it's powerful. And we want you to have that service that if we don't have it here, we will connect you to someone that will.
Yeah. To make sure that the needs get addressed. I'm going to remind our listeners to like and subscribe if you like what you're hearing. And also be sure to get yourself a ticket to Unstoppable on May 16th. And you can get your ticket at womensbuilding.org. Continuing with our conversation, talking about the Women's Building as a symbol of hope, but then also a place where if we can't do it for you, we're going to find somebody to help you out in this situation. Kind of seeing as that going on with that hope piece, the building being a symbol. On your personal side, where are you finding hope for the future of San Francisco in the face of not just the struggles that you had mentioned in the context there, but also with kind of this mixed in with the state of the city right now, which is in a tough situation. And even though we have, a large number of people who fight and love for this city, it's still difficult, right? That's just a general word. It's difficult. Where's Tania finding hope today?
You know what? I think I think I want to share about sometimes we lose the present moment of living and of fighting for our rights, and we have to own that back. We have to live in this present moment to understand the risks that we have as a city, as a community, as a state, as a woman, and to do something for it, right? There's a lot of people that are like, oh yeah, I understand you. Yeah, and can you support me? Can you come in this mission with us? And I think despite of the many challenges of the city, I remain hopeful. I remain hopeful that the city is going to listen to the communities. I remain hopeful for future generations. I have 2 kids, Maya and Aime. They are 8 and 10 years old. And along with my husband, we're always looking into, how can we path this future to be a better world for them? And right now we don't know. We will try, right? So I think that gives me hope. Future generations, the fight today, and the fact that we're not here solo. We're here together right now. At the Women's Building, there's so much collaboration. I have had conversations with a lot of the EDs, that sit there, and there's a lot of community. There's a lot of community empowerment, and we want to continue building on that. We want to hear all of their voices, and we want to get into discussions and understand that one view can't particularly fit others or all of them, right? But it's important to hear them all. And I think at the Women's Building, I always see women with many, many struggles, right? Like someone that has been, fought for their life, for their kids' life, who migrated, who had multiple jobs, who has, multiple struggles right now. And they come and they're like, and I want to be better. And can you help me? Right? So I think just the fact that we have to understand that hope is something that our communities have. We're not giving them to them. They have it on them, their own. That's what the resiliency is for, right? So looking at all of those struggles and their own hope on driving their own path in life to continue building on their life and their kids' lives, gives me hope.
I think that's a really wonderful way to put it, in terms of we're not giving people hope. People already have a bit of that, right? Maybe we're clearing the path for it to flow a little bit more smoothly inside of us, but it's kind of awakening something that already exists in the hearts and minds of people. For folks who might be listening, young leaders, young activists, young women out there who are listening to your story, listening to the work the Women's Building does, what advice would you give to them if they have an interest in doing community work, in doing empowerment work? What would you say?
Yeah, I would say go for it. Do not hesitate. There's so many people wanting to help, but there's not everyone doing that right now. So I think lean in, and it's okay to, change your, focus. But I would say just choose something that matters for you. Match that with your own values and go for it. Yeah, you may find your best friends there. You may find your best moments in there. You may fail. And that's okay. That's part of the growing. That's part of growing us all as community, as a city, as an organization. But we have to keep going. The risks are high, but not because of that we're not going to be doing the work. My dad used to say, someone that doesn't work will never risk anything, so will never achieve anything. Like someone that works will find lots of mistakes within the work and that tells you something. They are working. They are doing, they are doing something for what they are, for their own work, for their own mission, things like that. So I'd say especially younger generations, I've been really, just in this month, which is Women's Month, we receive a lot of requests for tours and just for conversations happening. It should be like that around the year, not only for one day, 1 month, but it is really important to continue having these conversations and for younger generations to lean in and to just take a look at what we have, what they can do, and how they can build on these communities for all.
Yeah, 100%, right? And there's gonna be failure might not be the right word, right? But there's going to be difficulties, missteps, obstacles that are innately in the system, right? If any one of our folks who want to try and create their values through policy or create a new structure in society that is led by their values is going to find a lot of obstacles, right? The values part, well, I guess depending on what your values are, right? But our general community values don't usually get turned into government policy without a lot of obstacles and without a lot of pushback. That causes you to question yourself, right? And causes you to question even the the underlying reasoning why there are people in positions of power, right? But these are necessary lessons, I think, in this kind of work. This is stuff that we just have to, you can read about it all day, but until you experience it and put the risk out there, right? I'm going to risk putting my value out as public policy. Yeah, it's difficult, but I agree. What do you say? Lean in.
Lean in.
Yeah, isn't that's a title of a book, right?
Yeah.
What's her name? She was CEO of Facebook or something, or some tech company.
Right. A long time ago, I think.
I think so. Yeah. I think so. But we're going for empowerment for everyone, even outside of Silicon Valley.
Exactly.
But that's for another podcast episode. But so, got a last couple questions for you. One is, if you had the power to enact some major policy change, right? Some policy shift to help women and families in San Francisco, right? And localize it as we can. What would it be? If you had your lever on power and you were like, I can do this. And the Board of Soups are not going to get in your way. Nor is the, I don't know if the city attorney might get in your way, but this is a hypothetical, so we'll be all good.
I would say, especially for the moment that we're right now, we'll build a more inclusive pathway for immigration policy and reforms. I think that's very close to all of the programs that we have at the Women's Building, to the communities that we serve, and to the staff that, are doing the work, firsthand. So definitely that. And then I would say the other one will be just childcare. I think the work that women do when they are taking care of their kids, it's shown they're appreciated, and it is not pay, and it is taking away from many, many opportunities. And I think that would be one that I would do, just kind of a universal high quality, childcare for women, so that they can have time to continue building on their careers if they want to, and time for, that professional development, time for them to sit at the table with us and then just have discussions on how can we get this done or that better, things like that. So I think that would be the two of them.
Yeah. I think my wife would also add time for rest and sleeping.
Exactly.
Right now, as she just gave birth to twins a few months ago, she would love the childcare so she can take a nap uninterrupted.
Congratulations.
Thank you. Until she has to pump again in a couple hours, right? So the naps are never that long, but all her work is greatly appreciated. Last question. So we talked about your event, May 16th, coming up in a bit. Are there any other new programs, new initiatives that the Women's Building has or is launching that you are particularly excited about? Especially as we go into spring, what's blossoming at the Women's Building?
Well, I'm going to tell you about like one project that I don't think many people know about. Like we have been embarking into a decarbonization project.
Really?
Yeah. So in our commitment to social justice, we understand that the environment is part of that, and we want to be embedded into what we do. So we want to electrify our building. We want to do a lot of reforms there, and right now we're working with some architects so that we can have a feasibility report to see what's possible at the Women's Building, from adding solar panels to making our office more efficient, like in terms of like air conditioning. Probably today will be a good day to have that in San Francisco with these high temperatures, but like just from air quality to electricity, we want to really make sure this is a project that we embed. And this is not only for us today, this is to make sure our building stands strong for the future generations and for years to come. We have a commitment with everyone in future generations. And I think that's that. We want to be there for them, stronger than ever. And for that, we understand that we need to take care of the environment. We cannot do that solo. We've been partnering with SF Environment and with other organizations so that we can make this dream possible while putting a lot of grants out there. No results just yet. We'll continue to fight for that.
Yeah, I think it's a really great initiative, right? Like, obviously, electrification it's where we have to go, right? Like, it's moving so slowly, right? And so I think we have to do it on such a large scale. Otherwise, we're never going to move away from our dependence on fossil fuels, right? This is not going to happen. Right? And especially, I mean, it's unfortunate, right, with us going in the opposite direction from at least the federal side, that there's at least some local pushback. I mean, I don't know if it's pushback, but at least local momentum going in the other direction, right?
And I think, like, especially as a historical building and a landmark in the community, we cannot, I would say risk, the building not being here in the next years. We want to make sure it's as efficient as possible, that it stands strong for all of the other organizations and our social programming, but we want to do it in the best way. And one way is that, let's electrify the building. We have a kitchen that continues to function with gas, right? Can we change that? Can we add solar panels? Can we just take a look at our, infrastructure overall? So we're right now about to get that report, and then to see what is possible at the Women's Building.
Yeah, that's great. That is great. We do a lot of work on it here, and obviously being in San Francisco is a little more helpful in terms of what the regulations are, right? But even they're still making new construction with gas hookups and stuff all over the state and all over the country. It is ridiculous. But we can get onto environmental stuff aside. There's definitely a lot to talk about there. And last thing I'll mention on this piece, because we did this at our development Valencia Gardens right up the block. There's a lot of solar panels on top, but also I don't want to say if, but when the earthquake hits, it's going to be important to have a way to have electricity and to generate it on your own, right? And keep it in the building, right? Because there'll be a lot of, the Women's Building probably on its own will be a community place people are going to show up.
Yeah.
But a lot of these big buildings are going to be hubs, emergency hubs when it hits.
And that's one of the reasons, right? We understood a couple of years ago that when this question came to be put in the community, where would you go if an earthquake hits us today? where would you find resources or shelter or just like guidance or information? They all pointed at the women's building. So hearing from the community, this will be the place they will go. I feel we have that commitment to work towards becoming a resilient center. And to do that, we want to also make sure our infrastructure can hold it. And because of that, we're looking into that. So that's our long-term goal, becoming a resiliency hub in San Francisco. And with that, we continue to work with SFR for that.
Perfect.
Yeah.
We can end on some positive resiliency, on some decarbonized resiliency, not gas powered. One last plug, please everybody like and subscribe if you like what you heard today on the San Francisco Revival. And again, May 16th, what's the full title? Unstoppable.
The Power of Collective Strength.
The Power of Collective Strength. May 16th in the evening. Be sure to get your tickets at womensbuilding.org. Tania, thank you so much for joining us on this episode. And well, that's it. We got a wrap.
Thank you so much, Chirag.
Yeah.
Thank you, everyone.
In 10 years, we'll record our next episode together. Perfect. That's a better way to stop than me just saying, with that, thanks, everybody.